Hi, how are you? I want a latte. Hi there, can I help you find anything? No. Move. I want to sit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That, Claire, was really rude. Let's try that again. Today, I'm going to give you some English phrases so you can avoid seeming rude in certain situations and instead come off polite. In fact, it's so easy to make small mistakes in a second language that seem rude when you don't mean to be. But don't worry, I'm here to help. I'm going to go through some common everyday situations and give you phrases that would sound rude and some polite alternatives. Let's begin. English made easy with Claire. Hi, how are you? I want a latte.
I want a latte.
Okay, so let's say you enter a cafe or a coffee shop and you approach the barista to give your order, and the barista says, "Hi, how are you?" And the rude response would be to say nothing and not acknowledge their question and just give them your order. So in the US, this would be a very typical question from a barista or a store clerk to ask, "How are you?" And they're not expecting a genuine response. You don't want to start going on about, "Oh, I woke up late this morning and then I ran out of coffee, so I didn't have my coffee, and then my car didn't start." They're not interested in actually knowing how you are, which a lot of people struggle with this part of the US culture, this small talk. If you don't have this in your culture, you might see "how are you" as a personal question that a stranger wouldn't necessarily ask you. But as I said, they don't genuinely want to know how you are, which for a lot of people can seem superficial or not genuine, but it's simply being polite to ask, "How are you?" And so the polite response would be, "I'm good, thanks. How are you?" Or, "I'm good, how are you?" Even if you're not particularly feeling good that day, this is the polite response. And then the barista, for example, can then ask you, "What can I get for you today?" Or, "What would you like?" And then it continues on with your order. But you have to get the small talk out of the way first. It's a very polite interaction. If you ignore the question and just order, this would be seen as rude. "Hey, where's the bathroom?" Another common situation is asking where the bathroom is or where the restroom is in a public place. Now, you could ask someone, "Where's the bathroom?" And okay, that's totally fine. But if you want to sound a little bit more polite, you could say, "Excuse me, could you tell me where the bathroom is?" So adding things like, "Could you tell me?" or "Do you know where the bathroom is?" These phrases make your requests or your questions just a little bit softer. They sound more polite and friendly instead of just abruptly asking someone, "Where's the bathroom?" right? And of course, using the words bathroom or restroom in a public area are perfectly acceptable. What you wouldn't hear in American English is calling it the toilet. That would not seem very polite, or some people might think it's a little gross if you ask them, "Where's the toilet?" When you ask where the bathroom is, I don't need to know specifically why you need the bathroom. And if you ask for the toilet, it's a little too much information. in American English. It's very acceptable in British English, but that was something that threw me off at first when everyone was talking about the toilet, and I thought it was a bit rude. I need the toilet. I gotta pee. You may also be in a situation where you want to tell someone that you're going to go to the bathroom. Maybe you are in the middle of lunch, or you're in a meeting with coworkers and you just want to politely excuse yourself. We don't want to be too explicit with why we need the bathroom or what we'll be doing. You just need to simply say, "Be right back. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom." Or just, "I'm gonna go to the bathroom." Or, "I just need to use the restroom." That's also pretty polite. If you're in a restaurant or cafe and you need an extra chair for your table, I wouldn't recommend just going up to another table and taking an empty chair without saying anything. That would be rude. So in order to be polite, all you have to do is ask the people at the table, "Excuse me, is anyone sitting here?" And if they say no, then you'd say, "Could I take the chair, please?" Or you could just say straight away, "Could I use this chair, please?" So either asking if anyone's sitting there to imply if it's free to take, or directly asking, "Could I take the chair, please?" Of course, using words like I mentioned before, like using the modal verb could instead of can does slightly make the question a little bit more polite. Move. I want to sit. Now, what if you want to ask if a seat is available on a bus or a train or any public transport? We definitely don't just want to say nothing and sit down. In some situations, if it's very clear that that seat is empty, you might not have to say anything and just sit down. If someone has their bag sitting on a seat and it's clear no one's sitting there, but there are no other seats, so you'd like to sit down, you definitely don't just want to say, move your bag and sit down. To be very polite in this situation, you don't have to mention the bag at all. Just say, "Excuse me, is this seat free?" Or, "Excuse me, can I sit here, please?" Adding phrases like "excuse me," "please," of course, make anything sound more polite. Even if it is clear that the seat is free, you may want to ask anyway, just to be extra polite. So you just can ask, "Is this seat free? Can I sit here?" Or, "Is this seat taken?" "Hey, old man, sit." You may be in a situation on a bus or a train where you want to offer your seat to someone else. Someone who is elderly or pregnant or less able to stand for whatever reason. And I just want to point out my use of the term elderly here instead of old. Old, in describing another person, especially a stranger, would be a little bit rude, but elderly is a much more polite term to use. So I just want to point out that some language is more polite than others in certain situations. So if you had to describe a stranger on the bus, instead of saying an old man, you might say an elderly gentleman. This is much more polite. Of course, you don't need to point out or say that this person is elderly when you want to offer them a seat. To offer your seat politely, you can say, "Would you like to sit here?" Or, "Here, take my seat." Some people will just get up and move out of the way, making it clear that you are making your seat available. And that's also completely fine. "Hi there, can I help you find anything?" No.
What?
Another situation you may find yourself in is when a store attendant comes up to you as you're shopping and asks if you need any help. You don't want to just say no or ignore them. You should respond, if you don't need any help, "I'm just looking," or "No thanks, I'm just browsing." And then the store clerk might say something like, "Okay, let me know if you need any help, or let me know if you need anything. And then you could just simply say thank you. So guys, as you can see, just a few small changes can make a big difference between coming off rude and sounding polite in English. Knowing these key phrases and certain words that you can use to sound a little bit more polite in these situations are really helpful with navigating a second language or when the culture is a little bit different to your own. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to my channel to get notifications on my upcoming videos. Let me know in the comments if you want more videos like this one, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.